Everyone, welcome back. Josh Beatar and Alexander Goldman here for From the Stands. And today we're very luckily joined by a returning Australian who's going to be returning to the Australian MMA scene next month, the former Bellator featherweight, Janay Harding. Janay, thank you very much for giving us a bit of time this afternoon. We very much appreciate it. First of all, how are things with you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and happy to be in prep for this next and upcoming fight.
Of course. And that's sort of what I want to lead into first was, obviously, it was, what I saw that image come up on the Beatdown Promotions website when we were at Beatdown Promotions 4, and I was kind of shocked. I had it was news to me. It was a complete surprise. So when I saw the poster for you and Jamie, get put up for Beatdown 5, I was very, very excited because I thought that was a massive name that they secured for that event. For you though, why Beatdown Promotions, and what was it that sort of made you want to come back and sort of have a run in the Australian scene?
I definitely, obviously, wanted to kind of come back to Queensland. I think that was definitely one thing that I sort of had on my radar. As much as there's so much hype around this next Sydney card and everything like that, Queensland's where I'm from, and so it would be lovely to have a fight week back in Queensland. But at the same time, I've been watching what Damien's been doing, and he was actually on my professional debut in Sydney on Brace back in the day, and we became friends. And lucky enough, he even did he attempted to do my IV drip back when we were doing IV drips for after weight cuts and stuff. That's sort of how long ago that was. And at the same time, I've just watched what he's done. Obviously, even since then in his own career, going to the UFC and Ryzen and stuff like that. I know he knows what a fighter wants and what they appreciate and stuff like that. And he's been treating all of his fighters and all his sort of fighters that have been on the Beatdown Promotions really well. So it's been really cool to see people like Junior Taffa and Elliot Compton and all those guys coming on there, and him flying people in and not really caring too much about promotional belts and stuff like that for the local scene, just putting on really great matchups and names that sort of bring a crowd or a pay-per-view. I think that's really great. So as much as I've already fought on Eternal obviously in the past, and Brace and Firework Cup and all sorts of shows like that, so I've had a pretty good connection with a lot of promoters in the Australian scene. I liked how he approached me about it, and I knew it was I was sort of, the ball was in my court in a sense of who I would go with when I came back to the local scene. But he was offering me what I sort of wanted and that comfortability mainly. And so therefore I'm super excited to fight for him.
Yeah, definitely. So Janay, talking back, wanting to return to Queensland, my question is, do you think that experience on, the international stage against international opponents, do you think that that's going to give you a distinct edge heading into the Beatdown Promotions 4 fight?
Yeah, I think just in general, years of experience under my belt will be the main thing that is going to have and give me the edge over Jamie. But I think it's just general, the negative, the international scene is great, but the negative of that is that I've been going overseas to random pockets of the world and especially random pockets of America by myself or with maybe one other person, and you don't have that camaraderie, you don't have your family around you. My mom hasn't seen me fight in years live and in person, and I haven't had my friends and family around me, or just that comfortability to know that I've got a home gym there in the Gold Coast and a bunch of people around me that's just going to make it so easy. I know, my way around Queensland and Gold Coast and Brisbane and stuff like that. Those tiny little things make a massive difference. I think it just makes it a lot easier to come into fight week and know what you're prepared for. As much as I've enjoyed fighting on the international scene, I do think I'll be back there in no time. It's sort of the biggest perk right now is just appreciating the little things and doing stuff that I wasn't really able to do at the beginning of my career. I kind of got thrown in the deep end a little bit with the big promotions, and now I can kind of come back with that experience and get better, and that's fine.
Definitely. Janay, you just spoke about it there. That your mum hasn't seen you compete in quite a while. And about 4 or 5 months ago, I was actually recording an interview with Shannon Ross. And before we did so, we went for a coffee here on the Gold Coast. I'm obviously on the Gold Coast as well. And I actually met your mum. She was in the cafe.
Way.
Yeah, so she was in the cafe, and she saw Shannon, and she came out. Hey?
Were you guys at HBK?
No, we're at Blackboard coffee shop, just in Varsity Lakes. Yeah. and she came over and she started chatting to us, and I realized that it was your mum, and she was talking to Shannon, and she was saying how good of friends you guys have been over the years, and how happy she was that you were coming home and that sort of stuff. So for you especially, what's it like for you knowing that September 16th you get to go out there, and guys like Shannon will most likely be there, and people like your mum, and also that relationship you've had with a guy like Shannon throughout, who's been doing this for so long, over a decade now that he's been doing it, like yourself. So you guys have really come up together. So what is that relationship like as well?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's almost like, exactly like I said, going back to CMBT and seeing the boys there, that's sort of like the new Puma. Obviously, I started at Puma with Vincent Perry, and I have so much love for that guy and everything that I sort of established back there. But as we know, everyone kind of grows and moves on, and the team sort of ended up progressing to CMBT. So just the idea of being able to spend the whole week at CMBT with the familiarity of the boys, I'm so blessed to be here at CKB and in Auckland and in Aotearoa, or just in general. Like, it's so great, but it's almost like I get the best of both worlds. Then I get to spend a whole week I could have just rocked up maybe on Thursday and spent a couple of days in Brizzy for sure, but I'm going to go watch the boys in Sydney. Then I'm going to come over to the Gold Coast and hang out with all my OG mates and have nothing but good vibes. My weight cut's going well. Like, I'm almost just more excited than anything. Obviously the training's hard and they're grilling sessions at the moment. Eugene's sort of on one and a whole nother level of motivation, which is fantastic for us. But it's sort of just like so much to look forward to and be able to see people like Shannon and James and Jesse and Miles and all my boys. Like, I'm so excited to come back and then have them in the crowd, even better. Even when I was commentating a couple of weeks ago at Beatdown, every second person obviously trying to like do a quick wave in between, like being on the mic and whatnot, like knowing all the coaches and all the guys on the Aussie scene. Like, that's definitely something that I miss and something that I love about the MMA community.
Yeah, for sure. So you kind of talked about it earlier that, you do want to return to that international scene. So then, I kind of have to ask, for my own, curiosity, is the Sinead Kavanagh chapter something that you want to finish up, or is that something that you've moved past in your career?
It's hard to move past something, I think, like that one where we kind of left it on a bit of a salty note. Not really salty as in personally. Like, I have so much respect for Sinead and John as well. Like, we have quite a good relationship with the team and everything too, but and obviously I know we just have mutual respect for each other now. I've been to war twice, but at the same time, like, losing a decision like that a lot of people thought I didn't lose, that my own coach thought I didn't lose, and then that being the decider of whether or not I get re-signed to a big promotion and whether or not my paycheck's coming in. Obviously I'd like to prove and kind of change the narrative of that story, but at the same time, I'm sort of opening up my eyes, and now that I take everything that happens for a reason, and stay in this lane. And I sort of am available to the new opportunities. I'm available to, maybe there is a reason why I'm taking a quick break from Bellator. I know someone like Arlene, obviously, as an example, had this same sort of scenario in between contracts, and I fought her in between contracts. So, and I can see this with sort of Jamie. Like, I'm almost giving Jamie that same opportunity that Arlene gave me, and then et cetera, but that either skyrockets me back into Bellator, which is a fantastic division. I love that. PFL obviously now have featherweights. UFC is doing all sorts of stuff, and my weight's been kind of changing now that I've been here too. So I'm honestly open to everything. I'm not going to definitely hold back my career for Sinead Kavanagh, but I would love to get that one back, of course.
Definitely. Janay, you were in Bellator for a little while, and I want to sort of know, how do you reflect on your time in Bellator? And as you sort of touched on there, PFL is doing wonderful. I think, PFL is doing a wonderful job at the moment. Obviously, Bellator as well. There are rumors at the moment of what the future of Bellator and what's going to happen there, but which is up in the air. But also, I did sort of, this is a bit of a two-part question, really, is how was your time in Bellator? And for the future plans, you talked about your weight there. Is there any chance that you would move down to bantamweight to make the 135-pound limit to sort of go for a run in the UFC?
I have definitely considered it, and it's always been something on my radar. I mean, at the end of the day, just before I got signed to Bellator, I was still at bantamweight for the Contender Series that ended up falling through. It was sort of just because the Bellator divisions only had flyweight or feather at the time. So it almost forced my hand, and I was very young. I was like 23 when I got signed to Bellator. So I just sort of grew into the featherweight division, and obviously I've been very happy there, and I almost like became a big featherweight. But now that I've moved here to New Zealand, everything's sort of changed, and my body has changed as well. And especially for females, things are always changing. So it's kind of interesting, and weight cuts are a lot easier now. Like, I'm really only dieting for a few weeks of the camp, and that's a lot different to what it used to be. So therefore, like, it has broadened my ideas to dropping down to bantam. We've spoken about it, and obviously I'm just sort of waiting for, I guess, signs of the universe to tell me what I should do next. Obviously, if they show me the money and that division is pumping in the UFC, I would definitely take the opportunity. It's always been my, I guess, thing to want to fight once or twice for the UFC as a legacy. But I never wanted to get a belt in a division of 3 people, so the featherweights weren't really on my radar. And then but the bantamweights are, and that's such a great division at the moment too. So I guess it would just depend. I'm just taking everything as it comes. Right now, obviously, just getting back in the winning column for one. I love everyone at Bellator, and I do sort of miss it in a sense. And I'm so blessed as well to have such a great connection with all those guys. I mean, people like Rich and all that. Since leaving, it's not like it's not even like I left as per se. I just didn't get re-signed, which is sort of just like a weird thing, but everyone still wishes me nothing but the best and is super excited for this up and coming matchup, and I have people from the behind the scenes, the operations team and stuff messaging me and wishing me well. So it's sort of just I know that I've got the connection there. I have a great connection with Ray Sefo as well. So PFL is always a great idea, and again, like you said, you don't really know what's happening with everything. I'm sort of not trying to waste my energy on that too. Whatever happens with those guys happens with those guys. That's exciting, if anything. And I mean, my favorite rumors are the ones of there being a PFL or a Bellator back here in Australia or New Zealand. That's always been a big one for me, and something that I've even said directly to Scott Coker. I would love to be on that card, and I could fill that card as well, in a sense, with other great prospects that I know they would have their eyes on. So yeah, everything's sort of exciting. It's an exciting time for MMA, and I'm just sort of in the middle of it, in this mix of the old gen and the new gen, but still being able to be on the end of my career, and I've got a great kind of couple more years left in me. So whatever happens, and I would love to touch base in a couple of different promotions, even if it is for the next few months, UAE Warriors or Invicta. Just the experience and understanding of those guys would be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And, Janay, you talked earlier that the sessions at the moment with Coach Eugene are, they're quite grueling at the moment. But, that kind of leads into my question, which is, we talk a lot about the physical side of the training camps. Obviously, how hard it is to do your wrestling sessions, jiu-jitsu, and your striking, strength and conditioning, and all of that. But do you think the mental side of the game is somewhat overlooked by fans? That, this is a sport that, is quite personal, obviously, and it can be mentally quite taxing at times. Do you think that sort of mental side of the preparation, in terms of your bad days, your good days, staying strong mentally, do you think that gets overlooked or maybe underappreciated by the fans?
I definitely think it's something that doesn't have a massive spotlight on it, for sure. But in a more personal sense, I think that's what I mean by those years of experience. You can go left and then you go right. It sort of means that I had a bad day the other day, and I just sort of was you know what, that's part of the game. I sort of had accepted it. I was upset, and then I just sort of changed my mindset about it. I was just kind of going through it, and I was like, look, that's fine. I can't have great days every day. I sort of turned it into the fact that this has been a great camp so far. I'm surrounded by inspiration every freaking day, and therefore I'm also surrounded by examples of how everyone, there's not one cookie cutter, I guess, journey or equation for success, and especially in MMA, everyone's sort of coming at it from different walks of life and different approaches. And I mean, obviously we've got 2 great people, for example, Israel Adesanya and then Dan Hooker, and they couldn't be more different in their own senses, but I couldn't be more in awe of their accomplishments. And I almost think they're on par for what they've done for our side of the world. So it's sort of just look, you just need to go through your days and figure it out. And someone like myself, I've done a lot of camps now, luckily, so I kind of know what to expect. I know there's going to be bad days, and I'm just prepping for it. And I'm just ready for the next day. As long as I tick the boxes mentally, I'm covered. And I do think like a lot of fans don't really see it. I would love to somehow shine light on it a little bit more, and then now that I am in this better place, be able to somehow create a little bit more exposure on that sort of stuff. But in a general, like I think it just comes with the game. And we were even saying, and the best thing about this gym is that there's one, a massive girls team, and two, just a bunch of us that are always fighting. Like at the moment, we've got, I'd say, about 20 people in camp, which is crazy. So we're all in the trenches together, which means we all know we're all really having bad days on the same days, to be honest, which is great. Like, we get back into the friggin' showers, and I just like, I could just hear silence, and I popped to Gina next to me. I was like, what the fuck? And she was like, what the fuck? And I was like, ah, shit. Like, we had a bad day. Like, it's what it is. And that's kind of cool when you've got people to share the journey with. I think that makes a big difference too. So very lucky to be where I am, but then also very lucky to have that experience behind me.
Definitely. Janay, look, last couple of questions from us. We don't want to keep you too long today, but last question from me anyway. Obviously, September 16th, let's get a little bit into the fight with Jamie Edenden, and it's going to be a great fight. I'm very much looking forward to it. She's a very, well-versed mixed martial artist out of Ignite Martial Arts here in Queensland. How do you view this fight playing out in your mind, and sort of how do you assess Jamie's skill set, and what areas do you think you'll be able to take advantage of?
I think it's an exciting matchup just because obviously I've watched her career a little bit, and not even like thinking that I was going to fight her, just being like able to be present during a couple of her fights, which is great. So I guess I guess I'm excited just for the matchup of the grunt of it, and then just to see how clearly my skill set should match up against hers, which I know and I believe in myself that it will. I know all my experience overseas and the caliber of opponents I've been fighting. I'm not looking past her by any sense, and I do think she is a threat, and that's what makes this fight exciting, and that's what keeps it still like such an exciting matchup for me to come back to the Australian scene and like Oceania scene for. But at the same time, I do think this plays out of just like this is what experience makes. This is cage time, this is bunches of camps, this is professionalism, and that kind of difference that I can see where Jamie is now is where I was at one point for sure, which is great. Like it is, there is a purpose for it, and I hope that how this fight goes, which will obviously, I'm seeing it as my win, will motivate her to go where she needs to be, because she is very close to that caliber. So it's sort of just like, in my eyes, a technical display of what senior caliber of mixed martial artist I am in comparison, and I'm so excited to put it on in front of like I said, a home crowd in Queensland.
Yeah, definitely. Well, look, Janay, last question from us today, because we do want to let you get to training. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to take you back. So I saw your post of you celebrating and your reaction to Israel Adesanya when he got the KO over Alex Pereira. Now, look, obviously, all teammates are excited whenever anyone on the team wins, but that one obviously had something special to it. The story, the timeline, the moment, everything. I was just sort of wondering if you could take us back to sort of, how you were feeling leading up to Israel's finishing sequence, and then, the sheer elation you would have felt as a teammate when he finally gets the knockout.
Yeah, man, that was a really funny one. I almost didn't want to. The guys are all watching it at I think it was Kai's house, and I almost didn't want to, because I was just so sort of not nerve-wracked, but I just wanted to have it at home. I knew I was doing my stream as well, which is a great sort of thing to do on the side. And if I was watching it by myself, I was actually watching it with my mum, which was really funny. And it was just the build up, we all know the narrative of it. We all know the storyline. Like, Alex Pereira has been living rent free in Izzy's mind. You can't deny him of that. And fair enough. And that's what motivated him, which is really good. So, it was just I think the video obviously displayed it, but it was just such a relief. I was like, oh, you know what that feels like, from a personal level, what he went through in that camp and what he had to do, how amazing, and how what a movie to watch almost firsthand. And I can't even explain it. And then even just watching Dan, watching Kai since then, all the boys compete, Tyson, everyone, and then being able to watch them all in a couple of weeks again, being a part of this team has almost, I guess, just like renewed my motivation for this sport and how much I love it and how much I love being a part of the community, but like even more so. And then just when Izzy walked through the door, like I remember like not expecting him to come in that day. I didn't know he was getting back. It was like early in the morning. I think he just got back like maybe that morning, and obviously came straight back to the gym. Coaches were already back. They'd already bought the belts back, and that was obviously elated in itself. But then I saw him and I was just like, oh brother, like how great. Like how fucking good, you know, like it's unexplainable. And I'm so happy. I'm so just appreciative and grateful that everyone's accepted me in that same way. So yeah, very blessed right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, look, Janay, thank you so much for giving us some time today. We know you're on the way to the gym, so, we hope you have a killer session there tonight with Coach Eugene. Hopefully he doesn't completely destroy you at the session tonight. So, but look, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate you giving us some time. We're wishing you all the best, and, I know that we can't wait to see you there on the next Beatdown card.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And great questions as well.
Thank you, Janay. Appreciate it.
Thoughts for this session, because honestly, you will.
Thanks, Janay. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Cheers.